You know, the one thing that is so needed right now in our politically hostile time, in our conflict oriented time, in all the tensions in America and around the world is compassion, is mercy, is understanding. And the question that I am asking, and maybe you're asking, is like, how do I grow in compassion? Where does it come from? And I love the story of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit because Tolkien does a masterclass on pity and compassion and mercy. In fact, it's one of the main themes in this story. And I want to just kind of weave a couple of the instances together for you to see a full picture of where it comes from. Tolkien dives deep into this in a very simple way. So I want to start with a conversation that Gandalf and Frodo are having. And this conversation is right before Frodo takes off to bear the ring to Mordor. And I want you to see what he says. "But this is terrible," cried Frodo. "Far worse than the worst that I imagined from your hints and warnings. Oh, Gandalf, best of friends, what am I to do? For now I'm really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that vile creature when he had a chance." Pity. It was pity that stayed his hand, Gandalf said. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. And he has been well rewarded, Frodo. Be sure that he took so little hurt from the evil and escaped in the end, because he began his ownership of the ring so, with pity. Now I want you to catch these lines next. "I'm sorry," said Frodo, "but I am frightened, and I do not feel any pity for Gollum." Now, at this moment, the context is that Frodo is frightened because he finds out the Shire is in danger. He has to bear the One Ring and do something about it. And all of this mess, for all of his comforts and his dreams, are being smashed, all because of Gollum. And the fact that Bilbo did not kill Gollum. He has no pity for Gollum. And this is what Gandalf says: "You have not seen him." Gandalf makes a connection between him not being able to have pity and him not seeing Gollum. Why? Like, we have to ask the question, why does that make a difference? Why does it make a difference that he can't have pity because he hasn't seen him? Now, I want you to see this moment in Bilbo's life when he's at the crossroads in the caves with Gollum. I want you to see what happens, because this is kind of a double click, double tap on Gandalf's statement of "you haven't seen him." I bet Gandalf is thinking about this passage, this moment in Bilbo's life. So I want to read it to you. Bilbo is about to slay Gollum. Bilbo almost stopped breathing and went stiff himself. He was desperate. He must get away out of his horrible darkness while he had any strength left. He must fight. He must stab the foul thing, put its eyes out, kill it. It meant to kill him. No, not a fair fight. He was invisible now. Gollum had no sword. Gollum had not actually threatened to kill him or tried to yet. And he was miserable, alone, lost. A sudden understanding, a pity mixed with horror welled up in Bilbo's heart, a glimpse of endless unmarked days without light or hope of betterment, hard stone, cold fish, sneaking and whispering. All these thoughts passed in the flash of a second. He trembled, and then quite suddenly, in another flash, as if lifted by a new strength and resolve, he leaped. What is happening here? Simply put, Bilbo had a vision into the utter darkness and poverty of Gollum's life. See, on the outside, he was a vile creature that was threatening him, but when he stopped to not look down and judge him, but to say, let me put myself in your shoes. Let me see what your life is like. Even though you are vile to me, even though I don't understand you, even though I feel threatened and fearful and afraid, I am going to stop. I'm going to see you. I'm going to see what your life is like. I'm going to see how you are going through your circumstances, how hard they are on you. And that welled up the compassion needed to not slay Gollum, but to give him mercy, to forgive him and to move on, which we know the pity of Bilbo ruled the fate of everything. If Gollum did get destroyed in that moment, the ring would have not been destroyed when Frodo couldn't destroy it later in the Crack of Doom. So much power comes in that moment of pity, and that pity comes from him seeing Gollum. Later on in the story, Frodo interacts and encounters Gollum for the first time. And he says, I now wanted to kill you, but now I have pity. Why? Because I have seen him. It wasn't until he could see the vileness, the poverty of Gollum that his heart broke. And it didn't excuse the nastiness of Gollum, but it explained why Gollum was who he was and why he acted the way he did, and that moved Frodo's heart. And I just wonder for you and I, how often do you and I look down on people? I judge people. I can make a character up of them that's not real, and instead of actually seeing them, I see a false image of them. And what is needed in this time is that we would slow down to see one another, to see the burdens that every person is carrying, to see the circumstances that swelled around that person's life that caused them to be who they are and act like they do. Again, maybe not to excuse their actions, but to explain enough and say, if you were in that position, maybe you would be the same way. And so you would want someone to extend compassion to you. What if we saw one another, like really, truly saw one another, and our hearts would maybe break, and we would give love and compassion instead of judgment and conflict and tension and division. Mercy, compassion. I hope that encourages you to slow down, to really see your neighbor, your brother and sister, and extend the kind of love that they need, that you would want extended to yourself. May that encourage you on your journey. Until next time, friends. Peace.